Hello dear learners, welcome you all to e-learning platform. In the previous weeks, week 1 and week 2, you learned the biography of John Webster, an introduction to the Duchess of Malfi, one of his masterpieces. In this week 3, you will learn Act 1 and Act 2 summary and analysis. So before starting analyzing the summary and the analysis of the play, I will remind you that John Webster dedicated his play to his contemporary ruler, namely George Harding, Baron Berkeley, living during 1601 and 58, a nobleman who served in the office of Lord Chamberlain. In offering his poem, Dialogues in Play, written in poetic verse, to Harding, John Webster employs typically flowery language, embellished with several figures of speech. Our compliments Harding for his learning and knowledge. By contrast, those who ignore or scorn the muse are like the worms in libraries that exist only to destroy learning. So let's begin. Lesson 1, Act 1, Summary. In Act 1, which consists of only a single scene, opens at the court of Malfi. So in this Act 1, Scene 1, we will find two characters, Delio and Antonio, and they are engaged in a conversation. Antonio admires the French court for strongly managing immorality and corruption in French court. The arrival of Daniel de Beausoleil and the Cardinal interrupts their conversation. Beausoleil is bitterly complaining about the Cardinal's lack of recompense for Beausoleil's services. Beausoleil is a law-born person, like a day laborer. He is a galley slave. And he is a professional criminal, commit crime in exchange of money. And he gets money from Cardinal and Ferdinand. But Cardinal and Ferdinand, the two brothers, mistreat Beausoleil, and they regard him as an object or a machine rather than a human being. Whereas Beausoleil hates these two brothers, and he also mocks about the life of court, the life at royal palace, because most of the people, royal people at court, are corrupted and immoral. Ferdinand, the brother of the Cardinal, and the Duchess of Malfi enters and engages in some cold banter. Banter is an activity which is a friendly talking and teasing with others. So they are engaged in a playful and friendly teasing talking with Silvio, Castruccio and Roderigo. The Cardinal and the Duchess soon join them. Delio and Antonio exchange somber remarks about the character traits of Ferdinand and Cardinal. They are the mischievous character. Whereas Antonio contrasts the Duchess's character with that of her brothers, calling her right noble and praising her outstanding virtue. Ferdinand requests his sister, the Duchess, to employ Beausoleil as her master of their horse, her chief groom, and the Duchess assents or agrees. So in this scene, we will find Beausoleil as employed by Ferdinand as a spy on the Duchess. but apparently he is employed as a steward. So in this act, the two brothers, Cardinal and Ferdinand, forbid their sister, the Duchess, not to remarry, as she is a widowed woman. But the Duchess disobeys their brother's ordeal, and she confesses a love to Antonio, and Antonio instantly agrees to marry her. After the brothers depart, the Duchess exchanges some comment with her maid Carrier. The Duchess sadly predicts she is about to enter a pathless wilderness. When Antonio re-enters, the Duchess makes her love for him plain, openly professing her wish to marry him. She presents Antonio with her wedding ring. Despite the difference in their social status, they contract with each other as husband and wife, with Carriol as a witness. So that's the end of Act 1 summary. Now we will go to Act 2 summary, lesson 2. So in Act 2, scene 1, we will find Antonio and Delio and Bezola. Bezola replies to their questions and comments with his customary cynicism and mocking. The Duchess then appears, complaining she is growing fat and short of breath. Bezola, affecting the most elaborate courtesy, offers her some apricots, which the Duchess readily accepts. But the food causes the adverse reaction and she goes into labor. Alarmed, Delio advises Antonio to spread the rumor that Bezola has poisoned the Duchess, only to hide the truth. Apricot is meant to induce craving in pregnant women, and Bezola offered apricot only to prove her pregnancy. Our next task is to dig out the truth of who is her husband. Act 2, Scene 2. Daniel de Bezola concludes correctly the Duchess of Malfi is pregnant. After another dialogue between Bezola and the old lady in which she accuses him of being abusive, Antonio Bologna bursts in, accompanied by Delio and other courtiers. A state of emergency has broken out, with an armed stranger from Switzerland breaking into the Duchess's bedroom and various thefts of valuables from the palace. A robber breaks into Duchess's bedroom and stole various valuables. So after this incident, Antonio issues orders for security. Fearful of his safety, Antonio dispatches Delio to Rome, telling him that Antonio's life lies in Delio's service. Bidding him farewell, Delio affirms his friendship for and loyalty to Antonio. So in this scene, we will find the loyalty of a friend like Delio towards Antonio. And there is a quote from Delio that old friends like old swords is still a trusted best. Cariole enters to announce to Antonio he is now the father of a son. That means in this scene, scene 2, Act 2, scene 2, the Duchess gives birth to a baby boy. So the time spent between Act 1 and Act 2 is like 1 year. Act 2, Scene 3, Bezola reveals the secret marriage. In semi-darkness, Daniel de Bezola voices his suspicion Bosola vows to get to the bottom of Antonio Bologna's plan, otherwise he confesses his career as a spy may be over. Antonio openly declares he thinks it possible Bosola poisoned the apricots. A suggestion Bosola abruptly dismisses. After Antonio's exit, Bosola catches sight of a paper Antonio has dropped accidentally. It is the horoscope Antonio cast for his newborn child. Gleefully, Bosola plots how he will use his new proof that Antonio is the Duchess' Duchess' husband. Bowed means husband. He will send a letter to the Duchess of Malfi's brother's wife Castruccio, who leaves the next day for Rome. So, finding this horoscope, Bosola is ensured that Antonio is the husband of the Duchess. And now he will reveal the truth of the secret marriage through a letter sent by Castruccio. We leave next day for Rome. Dear learners, this is the apricot which Bosola offered to the Duchess to prove her pregnancy. So this is a delicious fruit, normally available in European countries or American countries, North American countries or European countries. So this is also available in Japan. This fruit is very soft, very yummy, okay, and edible. I tasted it while I was in England. Have a look. In different pictures, the apricot. It's very soft. Okay, that's all. Thank you. This is the Royal Palace in Malfi. Have a look at it. The images are 17th century, 16th to 17th century. It's the bedroom, the Duchess. The Royal Palace. Act 2, Scene 4. The scene is set in Rome. The Cardinal banters with Julia. Banters is like a playful talking, jokes with jokes. Castruccio's wife. Julia is Castruccio's wife, who has now become the Cardinal's mistress or bed partner. He stresses heavily that Julia is in his debt. He also comments sarcastically about women's lack of constancy and fidelity, even as he congratulates Julia on her witty false stratagem or strategy to deceive her husband and travel to Rome to be a mistress of Cardinal. Castruccio arrives at Rome with the secret letter of Bosola. Cardinal exits. Delio, who courted Julia in the past, there was an affair between Delio and Julia. But after marriage of Julia with Castruccio, and Castruccio being a old man, Julia is spending time with the royal man, nobleman, Cardinal. After Julia exits, so Delio offered some money to Julia. After Julia exits, Delio says he fears Antonio has been betrayed to the Duchess's brothers. That means Antonio is a servant of the royal court. By marrying the Duchess, Antonio will be a betrayers towards the Duke, Ferdinand and Cardinal. Act 2, Scene 5. Accompanied by Ferdinand, the Cardinal enters his residence in Rome. They have read Bosolas' letter revealing the birth of Antonio and the Duchess' child. After knowing this secret, Cardinal remains cool, but Ferdinand becomes very angry with their sister, the Duchess. Ferdinand repeatedly envisions the Duchess's sexual laxity and vividly describes the ways in which he would punish her and her lover and will take revenge. Why the Duchess has disobeyed her brothers. The Cardinal urges Ferdinand to steer clear of intemperate anger. To cool down his anger. But Ferdinand ignores Cardinal's advice. That's the end of Act 1 and Act 2. So now we will go to the analysis of Act 1. Webster was much possessed by debt. This is written by T.S. Eliot, who lived between 1888 to 1965. He's a famous modern poet. In his poem Whispers of Immortality, written in 1918, published in 1919, he said, the playwright saw the skull beneath the skin. Even in his flowery dedication to George Harding, Baron Berkeley, Webster mentions the grave, thus foreshadowing a major set of themes in the play that revolve around death and bodily corruption. As the first scene opens with the conversation between Delio and Antonio, Webster touches on Antonio of the play's major themes, moral and political corruption. Antonio compares the operation of a quart of the flow of water in a fountain, which easily may be poisoned, to produce widespread disastrous consequences. The implication of Antonio's account of the French court is that corruption is foreseen and restrained more effectively in France than at home in Italy. That means the management of corruption and immorality is compared between French court and Italian court through the conversation of Delio and Antonio in Act 1. The sudden shifts of tone are one of the play's most prominent characteristics. Despite the Cardinal's reluctance, Ferdinand engages the former galley slave. Galley is a ship, an old ancient time ship, where a human being rows to keep the ship running. So those rowing men are considered very low-born people, day laborers. So the galley slave is the Bosola, who is a professional criminal and now acting as a spy on the Duchess, employed by Ferdinand. Both brothers are determined that their recently widowed sister not marry again. But the Duchess did the opposite. The final part of Act 1 displays a marked shift in tone from the stressful exchanges between the Duchess and the two menacing brothers, the Cardinal and Ferdinand. In the rowing of Antonio, the Duchess is both light-hearted and lyrical. Act 2 analysis. So the Act 2 opens with Bosola's temperament and preoccupations and Bosola's misogynistic attitude. Misogynistic means Nari Viddeshita, Nariderke Ghina Kora. Bosola's sardonic, that means satiric view of court life, is then followed by a misogynistic rant in which he berates an old lady for her excessive use of cosmetics. Bosola's cynicism হচ্ছে অবিশ্বাস বা সন্দেহ এই ধরনের কোয়ালিটিগুলোকে সাইনিসিজম বলা হয়, Bozolas' cynicism is also on display in his brief dialogue with Antonio. In scene 2, the pace of the action accelerates almost to the point of frenzy, craziness. Bozolas' renewed byplay, how he offered apricot to the Duchess and reveals the truth of her pregnancy. In the final scenes of Act 2, the atmosphere or mood of the play turns almost uniformly dark. In scene 3, for example, Bozola enters with the dark lantern. In all of Act 2, the Duchess appears only briefly in scene 1, when Bozola tempts her with the apricots. The accumulation of misogynistic tirades in this act from Bozola, the Cardinal, the Ferdinand cannot help but show the audience the immense obstacles the Duchess must confront in historical and cultural context. How the female in that era, where man had misogynistic attitude towards female, so how he confronted these things and act against their brothers, against the whole society, and against the ordeal of man, where the strong hand men were holding, but females not. That's the end of analysis and end of week 3. Thank you very much. See you next week. Until then, keep well, stay safe and stay home. Bye bye.